experiences in this class provided me with ample information in multiple areas of consideration for Denzel. These broad areas were mobility, visual aids, and computer access. I utilized the SET framework by Joyce Zabala to guide my assistive technology assessment for Denzel. And here is an overview of the SET framework by Joyce Zabala. Step 1 is abbreviated as S. S stands for student. During the first step, I learned as much about Denzel as possible. Denzel is 16 years old. He's a 10th grader. He receives public school education in a self-contained classroom for mildly disabled, intellectually disabled students. He's following the occupational high school curriculum. He's diagnosed with cerebral palsy and spastic paraplegia. He experiences difficulty with mobility, vision, and fine motor skills. For additional details about Denzel's exceptionalities, please refer to my assistive technology report. As the first step, I conducted 3 classroom observations in multiple settings, interviewed 3 of Denzel's teachers, interviewed Denzel's mother and father, and now you will view one of my interviews. This interview you're about to view is with Ms. Watley, Denzel's career management teacher. I was not granted permission to interview Denzel himself, and I'm sorry for that because he's a very cool teenager and he has an amazing sense of humor. Anyways, here's the interview with Ms. Watley.
You are Denzel's teacher. Tell us about what you teach and how long you have him for the day.
I have Denzel for career training, and I teach EC, English, science, social studies, occupational prep 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Oh, great. And what kinds of tests is Denzel expected to complete in your room?
I have Denzel for career training. He's expected to take notes, not so much as the note taking is more for practice. On a test, if he wants to give it back in oral form, that's fine. We're working on career collages right now, and Denzel, he cannot cut. He is expected to cut, but he could not cut.
So the challenge of not being able to take notes efficiently, is that a difficulty in the classroom?
Yes, because usually someone has to sit and either take them for him, or it takes him the whole class period to write down maybe 3 or 4 sentences.
Is he using any keyboarding or computers in your classroom at this time?
No.
And when his peers take notes for him, is that working out okay?
Yes, it's fine.
And when he couldn't cut to do his career collage, did he receive help from a peer?
I helped him with that. After I cut, I made sure the pieces were big so that he could assemble them on his construction paper.
Okay.
So he did glue them though.
Oh, wonderful! He was able to glue them. Yes. And how does Denzel get around in the classroom? I see that he has cerebral palsy, and he does not have much strength in his lower body.
He comes in on a walker, and then he sits at not a desk but a table and a chair, and then he leaves. In the evening, his parents get him. Well, at the end of school day, his parents come get him, and he leaves in a wheelchair.
What do you see as his strengths? Do you see him socially interacting well? What are some strengths that he demonstrates in your room?
Socially, he's like an average student, but mentally, as far as his schoolwork, he's not there.
So he's not functioning on grade level.
Not functioning on grade level.
Oh, thank you very much for your time, Ms. Watley.
You're welcome.
In addition to interviewing the teachers, I reviewed Denzel's special educational folder. This folder contained information about medical diagnoses, psychoeducational reports, physical therapy evaluations, and occupational therapy assessments. Through this review process, I was able to develop an extensive background information about Denzel's abilities, strengths, challenges, and needs. Here's an overview of this first S process, the first step. For the second step of the assessment process, I gathered information about Denzel's environment. E stands for environment that the student is in. At the second stage of assessment, I was spending time in Denzel's classrooms, lunchroom, walking the hallways with Denzel, speaking to the teachers informally, taking notes, conducting more formal interviews with them, and also learning about the diploma requirements for high school occupational curriculum for Denzel, and examining classrooms for available technologies, materials that Denzel could use in the classroom or already was using. Here's an overview of the second step, the E process. The third step of the Assistive Technologies assessment process involves taking a closer look at the tasks that Denzel needs to be able to perform in the classroom to be successful. This first T stands for tasks that student needs to perform. In order to identify these tasks, I reviewed Denzel's IEP, which is the Individualized Educational Plan. I watched Denzel's academic functioning in the classroom, watched him complete exams, reviewed his portfolio, to take a close look at his work samples. This way, I was able to gain a dynamic picture of Denzel engaged in academic and social daily activities in the classroom. I noted his potential constraints, functional abilities, and environmental influences. I observed Denzel write manually. I observed him type on the computer. I also spoke with Denzel himself, tried to find out more about his personality, his preferences, his hobbies, and I spoke with the teachers and Denzel's mother about the tasks he's expected to perform in the classroom to be regarded as successful. In this manner, I was able to define a main goal and two specific important objectives for Denzel to accomplish. The following slide provides an overview for this. Here, as the AT assessor, I needed to determine which devices could be instrumental in Denzel's accomplishing his main goal and his two objectives. The question was, which no-tech, low-tech, and high-tech technologies could provide computer support for Denzel's classwork, and which technologies could enable him to complete a job application independently. Researching these devices was somewhat an overwhelming process, in that the internet offers so much information. Websites such as EnableMart and Dun Johnston helped me narrow down my choices and guided me. This step involves the analysis of device characteristics. I conducted my extensive research on assistive technology products. It was important to consider a variety of products. I think no-tech products were a great challenge, and I went on Blackboard to collaborate with my colleagues to find out more about which no-tech technologies I could consider for Denzel. And I especially found determining pros and cons of products as the most challenging part. I felt that without having the first-hand experience with these devices and without any trials with Denzel, it was difficult to foresee the pros and cons of a device. It seemed like besides the cost of the device, that area was difficult to determine. And I included characteristics of the devices and the software products and vendor information. And here's an overview of the fourth step, T for tools and technologies. I enjoyed this learning opportunity, and although trying out different technologies with the student is beyond the scope of this class, I'm glad I will be presenting my report to the family as a source of ideas, and I will continue to interact with Denzel for the remainder of the semester as I'm placed in that same high school as an intern for the remainder of the year. All in all, this has been a great learning opportunity, and Joy Zaballa's SET framework was very helpful in guiding my assessment process. Now, I would like to end my video presentation with 2 final slides that summarize the entire assessment process that I went through. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time.